what has it been like, Yusuf, to see the film being made and to look back on your life, look back at on your younger self and bring yourself up to now?
Well, I think for the most part it's been very, very therapeutic, because most of what was in the papers before in 1989 and 1990, people were pointing the fingers and saying, this is what these guys are, and these guys are animals, and these guys are rapists, and using so much negative and derogatory language towards us, And to see the final masterpiece that was done, to see the fact that we are able to get our own voices back because we can speak for ourselves has been tremendous. And it's been such a healing process to go through this because, we went to prison and did so much time, and nobody, when we came home, said, we're going to try to help you. We're going to try to help you re-enter society. We're going to try to, scrub off some of those indelible scars that you have.
In the film, by watching you read what was said at the time of your 14-year-old self to be your confession, and you were reading it for the camera, and then you stopped and you said, a 14-year-old boy doesn't talk like this. So basically, you were reading something that was attributed to you, but that you didn't say. Mm. And so you were having interaction with your younger self there. How do you look back? How does this shape how you saw your younger self?
Well, like Yusuf said, piggyback off of him a little bit, going back to 1989, we had no voice, and it was stripping from us, and this label of the Central Park Five was given to us, and that was something that we couldn't shake off, and it was very negative. And so, and in that process of us being stripped, we lost some of the great years of our lives. This is like an indoctrination period to becoming a man. Where your father, he tells you how to fill out a job application and how to fix, make the bed and take out the garbage, and that stuff was stolen from us, and it was replaced with prison life. When I read that statement, it starts off with at approximately, and that doesn't come from a 14-year-old kid, and so I struggle with that, to know that I was taken advantage of by the system, but I also have to realize that, this is a process that we had to go through. This is something that was scripted, not by man, but by high power. And we embraced this label of the Central Park Five, and we turned it into something positive.
Ken, Sarah, did you explain to the audience how you got into this project, or how you came to it?
Yeah, a little bit. I was explaining that I had first learned about it in 2003. I was, in 1989, when this happened, I was 6. And so I was not at all aware of this story at that time. And it wasn't until I worked for this lawyer and learned about the case, and I met Raymond and Kevin that summer during that internship, and just was so moved by that story. And so a number of years later, when I started working on the book, we very quickly realized that we had to make a film, that this was an important story. It was a story that has implications that are also much larger than it. So it wasn't just, part of it was about the ability to give the 5 an opportunity to speak for themselves in this way, but also to explore some of the questions of how did this happen. And we felt like the medium of documentary film gave us a really wonderful opportunity to do that, both by being able to interview them and then also to put you, as you see in the beginning of the film, really try to put you in New York in the 1980s and be able to feel and see and hear a little bit of what that was like.
Race is a huge sub-theme, but I think we become so dialectically preoccupied that everything is black or white or young or old or rich or poor or whatever, that it is a kind of collective tragedy that we all share in, that we're all culpable. I was aware of it when it happened. I was outraged, bought hook, line, and sinker, as all the newspapers did, and reported it with great enthusiasm. This, if you think about it, bizarre narrative as opposed to the real narrative that actually happened. And we all wrang our hands about the death of our cities. This was not a white response. This was a citywide response. And we didn't ask, who are you? We didn't say, how did you grow up? We didn't say, what was your dad and mom like? We didn't say, what did your, who were your friends and what were your neighbors? We didn't ask any questions of them. We just accepted this story. And so it was interesting that when their convictions were vacated in late 2002, you sort of went, wow. And then nothing happened because those responsible for reporting the original story, who would have been responsible for what should have been an equally great tsunami of press about their innocence, couldn't, because we, as Craig Stephen Wilder said, were complicit in all of this. And so the terrible, horrible, unintended consequences of that is that it permitted, in the last decade, reactionary forces to rewrite the narrative that, well, maybe they really did do it, they got off on a technicality, whatever it is that those in whose interest it is for the truth not to be generally known, accepted, and part of our daily outrage, have essentially continued to write the story. So I think when Craig Stephen Wilder speaks about a collective guilt that we all failed, we failed these five. The media failed because they failed to apply the test of skepticism, which is at the heart of a free press. We, as the public, failed because we just said, oh, wow, that's pretty unusual, a wolf pack of kids. We failed to say, wait a second, this is the language of Jim Crow America in the first decade of the 20th century, not in a progressive northern city at the end of the 20th century. We just failed. And so I think part of this was just saying, how could we go back and kind of rearrange the molecules of this experience and begin to ask, first and foremost, since we know their innocence, how did this happen? What really happened took place in all of this? Why weren't even alternative theories entertained by the cops or the prosecutors that would have that summer released them all? Remember, we let some white lacrosse kids, who were falsely accused, we sort of went crazy at how bad we'd been at accusing them, and we fired the prosecutor, disbarred him, and sent him to jail, and apologized profusely for the inconvenience of a couple of months to the white Duke lacrosse players. These guys are still waiting.